The Brazilian GP was a great race, and that was one of the biggest, or should I say, not a tragedy. I'm not a literature student, so don't let me say nonsense, but no, that is a race for the pockets because it really gave us everything at it again. Number one, the two Ferraris out of the race, positioning 1, 2, not of their own fault, but at the end of the day, it shows how downbeaten and where Ferrari really are, seriously. Also, a great win for McLaren. You know, I've said it that the race in Brazil has always shown us or given us some different side of what the kind of championship we have in our hands would look like, and it never disappointed us. Also, a great race for the rookies. 4 rookies in top 10. They are doing a great job. Bierman, Antonelli, they've been doing a great job since the middle of the season. Great one. And for the RBs, the Racing Bulls, what a great race for them. They were in the top 10 and they got into the points today, though at the end of the race they had the squabble. They almost ended their own race. What a funny thing it could have been, but it was a good one. Let's start with Max Verstappen. Overnight, Max Verstappen had to tear the car apart again, and that's one thing with Red Bull. They take a lot of risk, and that is what other teams don't do. They love taking risk, and that has brought them to this point. They tore the car apart, changed the engine, get some penalties, start the race, see what they can come off with. They have nothing to lose. All they need to do was try. Lewis Hamilton started good like he started in the sprint, but unfortunately he had it with Carlos Sainz, went back from 13th position to 19th, trying to get a good one for himself. I think his squabble with Colapinto would not have been a penalty. That's where stewards are at it again. Colapinto moved, and that allowed Lewis Hamilton to dip the back of his car, that's the front wing, right into him, and he got a 10-second penalty. Now, the first hit he had with Carlos Sainz had put him off, scraped the underneath. Now, when he got his front nose damaged, some part of the nose went underneath the car, and that damaged the car. And for me, I would have said, oh, retire the car. They kept on changing tires and they were getting nothing out of it. But I don't know why Ferrari were also thinking that he deserves a penalty. We've seen this over time. A lot of drivers move under braking and stall a little. That was what he did. But they gave him a penalty, a 10-second penalty. That ruined his race. Was it 10 second or 5-second penalty? That ruined his race. And I think they were expecting the penalty. They pitted for the penalty. They served the penalty. Now into the next race. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton's teammate, had his own jink, which was caused by Oscar Piastri. He jinked Kimi Antonelli and Antonelli on Charles Leclerc, and that was the end of the race for Charles Leclerc. So the two Ferraris were out. But for me also, that was a racing incident, because at that point, looking at it, there was nowhere Oscar Piastri can put his car. It was almost on the grass. So there was nothing he could do. There was a wheel spin for Kimi Antonelli. That was why he was unable to pick up the pace on the restart. This still boils down to the inconsistencies of how the rules are applied in F1. Now, going to Yuki Tsunoda's penalty and him receiving his penalty. Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll, I think they were both aggressive. In the words of Chris Horner, I would have said, let them race. He got a penalty, 10 seconds penalty. Unfortunately, he didn't serve it well. He had to serve a 10-second penalty again. That threw his race into a total dilemma and coma. I think Red Bull, for me, should have retired him at that point, because there was no way he could get into points. Serve the second penalty and retire the car and just save the engine. But, well, they had the race. But fortunately, let's go to Max Verstappen for you. How they tore the car apart, recoupled it. He started from the pit lane. He was able to gain positions. He had a puncture. He changed the tires. The major thing that helped him was the 2 yellow flags helped him, because there was one safety car and the other was an autonomous safety car in which the drivers reduce their speed and they are able to now get firing on. So those saved him a lot of time that he had to change the tire. So when he went in to change tires from hard to mediums, I think he had a lot of time to save, because if he had gone in and there was no yellow flag at that point in time, or there was no virtual safety car or main safety car, it would have just destroyed his race, because he was able to get back and that saved him. And these 2 safety cars were caused by Gabriel Bortoleto and Charles Leclerc. For me, he did a very beautiful race. He was in contention for a podium and he got a podium. What a race he did. And to Gabriel Bortoleto, the homeboy, it has been a weekend to forget for him. For me, it's a weekend to forget for him, because right from the sprint qualifying to the sprint race to the qualifying to the main race, it was just a hell for him. Yeah, in his home race, he never gave his home fans anything. It was just worse, and it went from bad to worse in the race. On the opening lap, his race ended. Also, before the race, over the night, the turn 3 water loo. Whenever there's rain, there's always water, and that was what happened when Lando Norris put water on the track on turn 3, and a lot of drivers just kept on going into the wall. So there was a way in which they grilled a small gutter in it to allow the flow of the water. So if there's rain during the race, it can save a lot of drivers. Now, on the Piastri, Kimi Antonelli, Leclerc position, I think, to me, it's a racing incident. It doesn't deserve that. Giving Piastri that penalty really destroyed his race, hampered his race, and that changed the way the championship is turning out. Lando Norris is now 49 points ahead of Max Verstappen, 24 points ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri is 25 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Now, we have 3 races to go: Las Vegas, Qatar, and Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So Max Verstappen could still fight for second in the championship. But from what we saw this weekend, Oscar Piastri really picked up. He did a very good race this weekend. He was not shy. He was not giving up easily. He gave it his best. He came out during the qualifying. And I think going to Las Vegas, he might come out better because it's another street race. I think one of the things that made it easier for Max Verstappen today was the rain that fell in the morning, and the weather was so calm and damp. They were able to nurse the tires, and he did well because the tires were cooler. It was not overheating the tires unnecessarily. That helped him, I think. That helped him. Now, to Lando, congratulations to Lando Norris. What a race he had. Dominated the race from beginning to the end. He never gave a chance for Max Verstappen. But one thing I noticed is this. Max Verstappen was at a point in time doing the same time Lando Norris was doing. And I think if he could be doing that with the little changes they made to the car, it could have been very, very difficult if Max Verstappen had qualified with that car in that position in qualifying. It could have given the McLaren a race of their life and a run for their money. But it's in the past. I think the Red Bull will go back and look at the mistakes they made, what they need to do better, and how they can make it better in the next race going into Las Vegas. Now, to Lando Norris, like I said earlier, big win for him. That has expanded and extended his championship fight with his teammate and also with Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli, I said it yesterday, a big clap for him. What a great race he did. As in, at the end, racing Max Verstappen and telling Max Verstappen in the last 3 laps, less than tenths with DRS, Max Verstappen could not overtake him. He gave Max Verstappen the big aura of his career, and this young man has now surpassed Lewis Hamilton's points as a rookie. Kimi Antonelli will be a new leader, and if he had the opportunity, I don't see George Russell staying a long time in Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli has started showing who and what he really can bring to Mercedes, and that is what for me I want to see. Now, surpassing Lewis Hamilton's championship point in 2007 as the youngest driver, I think is a good feat. But remember, the pointing system has changed. Then it was harder for Lewis Hamilton because the pointing system was smaller and harder. But at this point, as in rating him with Max Verstappen in his first season, I think this boy is doing a brilliant job, and he has done a better job than Max Verstappen, which means his future is bright and he's just going to do great things if they give him the right car. And when we talk about the right car, you can see what giving a driver a bad car can do to him. And that is what we've talked about with Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton when he had a bad car, and also with Mercedes and Ferrari when they have a bad car. If you give a driver a bad car, there is no way he can drive it. And we can see that happening. So which means, like I've always said, all the drivers in F1 are talented, they are good, but some of them have extra talent. Now, those that have extra talent, if they have the right car, how will they perform? They will do well. You understand? They will do well. And I think we are seeing that presently. George Russell did a good race, and I think he was unable to hold Max Verstappen back because Max Verstappen was still having good tires then. But the Mercedes were suffering from brake issue and some little overheating issue towards the end of the race. And I'm like, the temperature is damp. Why are the Mercedes suffering with overheating? I don't understand, because I don't understand for Mercedes why they're struggling with overheating. But I think that will be analyzed and we would know. But probably maybe the car was a little bit too low, but they didn't complain about porpoising or whatever because that track is bumpy. But we would know, and I'll give you a lowdown of that in the future. Oscar Piastri, 10-second penalty really put him in a bad position, but great race. Came in 5th, did a beautiful race, and there's still 3 races for him to challenge. So I hope he comes up and do a better race. Oliver Biermann, 6th. What a race that boy is having. What some powerful overtake he had in the race. What a future he has ahead of him, and I believe he can do great things. Being on Ferrari radar is a good one. Lewis is getting older. Charles Leclerc is looking outside of Ferrari probably, and Ferrari might be looking at Piastri, and also Oliver Biermann is there. So he's putting himself in a position in which he's telling those big teams, hey guys, look at me, I can do this, I'm good, you know. To Liam Lawson, what a great race he had. Did a perfect race for himself, was able to gain position through the pit and came in 7th from his teammate Isaac Aja. They had a squabble towards the end of the racing, which could have destroyed both of them's race and would have promoted people like Albon and Ocon if both of them had ended their race on the track. But they were able to go through it, greeted themselves at the end of the race. What a race it was for them. And Isaac Aja did a good race, like I said. Nico Hulkenberg fought all through. I think Aja, Hulkenberg and Lawson had one pit stop, which saved them. Unlike Lewis Hamilton, they had 3, didn't finish the race. Max Verstappen had 3, but he was able to use his last stint on soft tires to have a good race. But Nico Hulkenberg and Liam Lawson did just one stop and they executed it perfectly and it gave them the race they wanted. Pierre Gasly, man, has been struggling all through this year and he's had some perfect races, he's had some bad races, he has pushed himself, he has done some unbelievable things, but unfortunately, he came into this race and was able to execute a perfect race for himself, came in 10th, got some points in for his team, though Colapinto has been doing great recently, but he as a leader in the team has kept on showing that, no, I'm not just in this team. You met me in this team and I can still tell you that I'll be here for a long time, and he did a good race. The 2 Williams, I think Williams in the last few races, they've done a great race. Probably this track was not or is not their track. They did their best. They did a wonderful race. Unfortunately, the execution was not right. Strategy might be not on their side. The car was a little bit slow, but I think they could have gotten in great, but it is what it is. The Aston Martin had a great race yesterday in the sprint racing. Maybe they didn't change the car, maybe they added something or removed something from the car or changed their setup. The whole race just went a hole. And I think for Lance Stroll and Alonso, that culminated to give them a bad race. Esteban Ocon, started from pit lane, ended the race in 12th in a Haas. Well, I would say a perfect race. Great one. I think he changed the setup. That was what he changed. He didn't change his engine. That really worked a little bit for him. He was able to put the Williams and the 2 Aston Martins behind him. What a great race for him. Colapinto also had a very bad race. After his squabble with Lewis Hamilton, was unable to make some progress. But I think, in all, it was a very interesting Grand Prix. And I believe with this Grand Prix, we are probably looking at how the season will be reshaped and how or what the teams need to do to concentrate on next year. For Red Bull, I think they need to look more into development of next year. Everything they are doing is not on Tsunoda, is just on Max Verstappen, using Tsunoda as a guinea pig to set Max Verstappen up for a better race. I think from what happened yesterday, we could see that. But their main focus is getting second in the championship. But would they be able to get it with the way the races are panning out? For McLaren, they've had the best car this season so far. How can they push up in their prospect? They need to win Las Vegas and probably come 1-2 in Qatar. Then the championship is set. Even if they don't start in Abu Dhabi, I think their 1-2 is sure. They need to have a 1-2 in Las Vegas, win the sprint in Qatar, and also win the main race in Qatar. Then they don't need to go in for the last race. They just need to look at the 2 guys and say, hey, you guys, who wants to win it? But Lando is really leading. And I think Drake's bet is looking likely to be a good bet. Because Lando was poor at the beginning of the season. Oscar Piastri was high. And I think that can still happen. There can still be a possibility of Oscar Piastri changing his future by himself. Things can change fast in Formula 1. So we have 3 more races to go. Let's see how those races change the reflection of the whole season. But I think Ferrari has a lot of reflections to do. Their season has gone from bad to worse. They went tumbling down today from 2nd Constructors Championship to 4th. Just tumbled the way Red Bull tumbled. And remember, Red Bull is a one-man team. So one man of Red Bull is getting as much points for them to topple Ferrari. That is a case in which I think Ferrari need to look at, because if they're going to next year the same way, I think it's going to be a disgrace. Because Lewis Hamilton said something during his interview after the race, said this is the team he has high hopes for, that he will win races, he will do something great. But he came here, things have not turned out, even the car, everything. So he felt dejected, and I think that alone should show that that team needs a lot of polishing, a lot of refurbishing, a lot of work to do. Seriously, that team needs a lot of work, and I don't know how they will do it, the magic they need to do. But the first thing I think that team needs to do, number one, is get out of that place in Maranello. Let Maranello just be like a walking base. Leave Maranello, get to where everybody is, And where is that? That is UK. Get in there, have a base there, learn from others. Still, that is how you win. Do that, get things sorted out for yourself, and put yourself in great chance for competition next year, because it's going to be different. The way they end this year might determine the way next year will be for them. Also, to Mercedes, it's been an eye-opener for them to know how they've done this season. Sometimes, to me, it's a roller coaster for them. Sometimes they have a good race, sometimes they have a bad race, and when it goes bad, it goes worse for them. But it didn't go really bad in this last race to end the season second position. And look at next year. To McLaren, they just need to keep doing what they are doing. Probably they get something out. Williams, they are going back. They've had a terrific season. Especially the first part of the season, they've been a team in the midfield to beat, challenge the top teams, but now they're going back. I think that is because of the size of the team. They still need so much, probably money, investments to get themselves together. We can see us, a very small team, doing great things, with us bottling up, and also Racing Bull, I think, is going to look like a shining season for them to end with. But how do the rest of the field banner up and get themselves together? It's going to be a good one. But I think going into Las Vegas in the fortnight will be a very good racing. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a very interesting race that would show us how the season will end. Catch you guys in Las Vegas. Catch you guys in Las Vegas, Nevada. I love you guys. Bye.